Good morning, everyone. Wasim Parkar over here. Hope you all are having a great day. It's a fantastic morning here on the eastern coast of North America in Toronto, and I'm super excited because it's the morning that marks the beginning of the final Grand Slam of the year, the US Open, and any Grand Slam always gets me excited. Of course, there is a little bit of disappointment as well because in what seems like the first time in eons, Roger Federer is not participating at the US Open, but nonetheless, with the likes of Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray, Rafa Nadal, Serena Williams, Angelique Kerber, and plenty of young stars, exciting players. There's a lot to anticipate about this year's US Open in Flushing Meadows. So today is day one. Day one's about to get underway in barely half an hour. I can't wait to watch the action. I'm sure many of you are excited as well. I've got my cup of joe ready to watch some of the early action. Yeah, take a sip of it. Delicious hazelnut flavored coffee, black with a bit of sugar. Anyways, getting back to the tennis, usually the first few days don't seem to have that same sense of anticipation and excitement because you don't get those big matchups. Nonetheless, I think even in the first few rounds, if you look hard, you can always find some matches that, if you're a tennis fan, you can really enjoy. So on day one itself, I've picked out five games that I think people should keep an eye on, and matches that I think will excite many of you. The first one that I want to talk about is on Arthur Ashe. We've got world number one and defending champion Novak Djokovic playing Jerzy Janowicz. Now, for all intents and purposes, this really should be a no contest. Jerzy Janowicz is now ranked lower than 200 even. That being said, he was a Wimbledon semi-finalist as recently as 2013. He has that big serve. I think he's had tough luck with injuries, and he's not really figured out how to evolve his game since he reached that career high ranking of 14 back in 2013. So Djokovic should be the favorite, but the game is being played in the night session under lights. If there's a good wind and if Janowicz can get some rhythm on his serve, the US Open is a tournament where a big server can cause an upset. I still back Djokovic to win, and that too quite easily. Nonetheless, it is interesting to watch. We could have a first two sets that could be quite tricky, especially because Djokovic himself maybe isn't feeling as uber confident as he was earlier in the season. You know, when he was winning matches left, right, and center, he won the Australian and the French. Then that shock defeat at Wimbledon, and then at the Olympics. I think the Olympics really meant a lot to him. And then when he lost to Juan Martín del Potro in the first round, you could see those tears and all. So how will Djokovic rebound from that? That's an interesting question. Of course, he is very mentally tough. He's got the best people in his camp who equip him to deal with such situations. So he should come through. Nonetheless, I think there's a potential, not for an upset, but some excitement on the first match at Arthur Ashe in the night session today. So another game I want to talk about, and this takes place at Louis Armstrong Stadium in the afternoon. It's between two Grand Slam champions. Yeah, it's quite rare for two Grand Slam champions to face each other in the first round, but that's what's happening when Francesca Schiavoni takes on Svetlana Kuznetsova. Kuznetsova, of course, won the US Open herself in 2004, seems a long time ago, and won the French in 2009, whereas Schiavoni won the French in 2011. Folks, these two, when they play against each other, it's a lot of fun. The last four times they've played against each other, the match has gone three sets. And their two Grand Slam meetings, absolutely legendary battles. I remember in 2011, I think it was a round of 16. I'm pretty sure it was a round of 16 actually. And Francesca Schiavoni won that match 16-14 in the third set. And then last year in the French Open, just last year in the French Open, again they went three sets, and it was another marathon, and Schiavoni won 10-8. There's also nice contrast in styles. You know, Kuznetsova relies more on power, although, of course, she doesn't have the power that she once had, whereas Schiavoni's got more finesse, that one-handed backhand. I'm expecting another lengthy game. Now, that being said, it is a hot day, so from a purely human perspective, I hope they don't indulge in a very long battle because I want them to be fit. And the worst thing that happens after some of these long battles is then in the next round, the players aren't able to maintain their energy. But I'm hoping that Schiavoni and Kuznetsova put up another thriller, albeit I'm hoping for slightly cooler conditions so that we can all get to enjoy a great match. Another match that's caught my eye, this takes place on Grandstand, is between the American Taylor Townsend and Caroline Wozniacki. Now, on paper, again, this is a no match. This is a no match. But that being said, I do think that with Wozniacki's current struggles, she's fallen below the top 50. She hasn't had a good year so far. And the US Open, I find that we often have situations where young American teenagers or young American players do have breakthrough tournaments. I remember Melanie Odan a few years ago, then CC Bellis a few years after that. You never know. Could this be the tournament where Taylor Townsend finally breaks through? She's a lefty. She's got good power in the game, but she hasn't been able to rise up the rankings as quickly as many expected her to. So hopefully this is a tournament where she finally comes through. I think there's a potential for an upset. The big question is on day one, will Grandstand be filled? Now, Grandstand's that intimate kind of stadium where if the American fans get behind you, you really can play inspired tennis. There are a lot of Americans who've caused major upsets on Grandstand just because of the crowd. So on day one, if the crowd at Grandstand fills up and gets behind Taylor, there's every chance of an upset against Wozniacki, because Wozniacki, you got to remember, even at her best, is a defensive player. So this has the potential to be quite a good match. Another match from Grandstand that I'm really excited about is Johanna Konta, the British lady who's been playing so well this year, whose game has improved leaps and bounds, is up against the serve and volley specialist Bethany Mattek-Sands. And this is also on Grandstand, and this is later in the day. So there is a possibility of a more crowd participation in this game. And Bethany Mattek-Sands, while no means a complete player, she has those tools and weapons that rattle higher ranked players often. She's caused a lot of upsets in Grand Slams before, and if she's on a game, her serve and volley game could unsettle Konta. Although I think Konta's more comprehensive game should enable her to to overcome Sands. I do think there's a potential here for an upset as well. If anything, I'm expecting a raucous atmosphere and a lot of excitement in this game. And the last match that I'm looking forward to on day one, the fifth game, is between Canadian fifth seed Milos Raonic and Dustin Brown. Folks, this match takes place on court 17, another intimate court. I think Raonic has enough game to take care of his opponent, but Dustin Brown, like Bethany Mattek-Sands in the ladies' side, a serve and volley player. You don't see many of them, and he has a kind of game that can ruffle players. Many of you may remember he beat Rafa Nadal at Wimbledon last year. So can Dustin Brown cause another upset? And with his dreads and locks, he's the kind of player who gets the crowd involved. He's the kind of player who's a lot of fun to watch. I expect at least 2 tie breaks in this match. I don't know if Dustin will win a set. I expect at least 2 tie breaks in this match. And you never know if he sort of rattles Milos Raonic, maybe a small chance of an upset. So those are my 5 games to watch on day one. Novak Djokovic against Jerzy Janowicz, Svetlana Kuznetsova and Francesca Schiavoni, Caroline Wozniacki versus Taylor Townsend, Johanna Konta versus Bethany Mattek-Sands, and Milos Raonic versus Dustin Brown. I'll try previewing the matches of the day each and every day at the US Open. And then as we get into the later stages of the tournaments, the business end, we'll probably discuss tactics and analysis post-match as well. So this is Wasim Parkar. Hope you guys all enjoy a fantastic day one at the US Open.